Lagos was alive with energy on the evening of the university's alumni gala. The air was thick with anticipation, a blend of excited chatter and the vibrant sounds of a live band playing Afrobeat rhythms. Bright lights danced across the room, illuminating the elegant gowns and sharp suits of the attendees. Among the crowd was Titi, a young woman with a radiant smile and an unmistakable aura of confidence. She moved gracefully, greeting old friends and making new connections, her laughter echoing like a melody over the music. Jide stood at the edge of the crowd, his tall frame relaxed but observant. He was a few years out of university, now a rising star in the finance sector, and his natural charisma made him a magnetic presence at any event. He watched as Titi laughed with a group of her friends, her dark eyes sparkling under the dim lights. There was something about her poise, her confidence, that captivated him instantly. As the night progressed, Jide found himself moving closer to Titi, compelled by an invisible force. Finally, their paths crossed at the refreshment table, where Titi was pouring herself a glass of champagne. "Mind if I join you?" Jide asked, his voice warm and deep. Titi looked up, momentarily startled by the intrusion, but then her eyes met his. There was a flicker of recognition, and a smile spread across her face. "Of course, the more the merrier," she replied, handing him a glass. They began to talk, initially about the gala and the friends they had in common, but soon their conversation deepened. They discussed their passions, their dreams, and the paths that had led them to where they were. Titi spoke of her love for interior design and her desire to create spaces that told stories. Jide shared his fascination with numbers and how he found beauty in the patterns they created. Hours seemed to fly by as they continued to talk, their connection growing stronger with each passing moment. They discovered shared interests in music, a love for adventure, and a mutual appreciation for the diverse culture of Lagos. By the time the night ended, they had exchanged numbers, promising to meet again soon. Over the next few months, Jide and Titi became inseparable. They explored the city together, visiting art galleries, trying out new restaurants, and attending music festivals. Each experience was more enchanting than the last, and their bond deepened with every shared moment. They would often lose track of time, engrossed in conversations that lasted late into the night. Their relationship was not just built on shared interests, but also on mutual respect and admiration. Titi admired Jide's ambition and his ability to see beauty in simplicity. Jide, on the other hand, was captivated by Titi's creativity and her passion for life. He loved how her eyes lit up when she talked about her latest design project, or when she discovered a new book to add to her ever-growing collection. One rainy evening, after a day spent wandering through a new art exhibit, they found themselves at Titi's apartment, sipping on cups of hot cocoa. As the rain pelted against the windows, Titi looked over at Jide, her heart full. "I'm glad we met that night," she said softly, her voice barely audible over the sound of the storm. Jide reached out, taking her hand in his. "Me too," he replied, his eyes searching hers. "I can't imagine my life without you now." The sincerity in his voice sent a shiver down Titi's spine, and she felt a warmth spread through her chest. In that moment, she realized that what they had was more than just a fleeting romance. It was something deep and meaningful, something that could last a lifetime. As the months turned into years, Jide and Titi's love continued to blossom. They supported each other through thick and thin, celebrating each other's successes and providing comfort during times of struggle. Their love was a beautiful tapestry, woven with threads of joy, laughter, and shared experiences. Looking back, it was clear that their meeting at the university gala had been a pivotal moment, a turning point that set them on a path towards a future filled with love and happiness. Little did they know that this was just the beginning of a journey that would test the very foundations of their relationship, challenging them in ways they could never have imagined. But for now, in the warmth of each other's company, Jide and Titi were blissfully unaware of the storms that lay ahead. Their hearts were full, their spirits high, and their love unwavering. Titi sat at her desk, flipping through fabric swatches for an upcoming project. Her fingers brushed over the various textures, her mind consumed by thoughts of color schemes and furniture layouts. Just as she began to lose herself in the creative process, her phone buzzed, pulling her back to reality. She glanced at the screen and saw a message from Simi, her childhood friend. "Simi, hey Titi, let's catch up soon. It's been too long. How about dinner tonight?" Titi smiled at the thought of seeing Simi. They had been friends since their school days, their bond forged through years of shared experiences and secrets. Despite their busy lives, they always tried to find time for each other. Titi quickly typed out a response, agreeing to meet at their favorite restaurant later that evening. When Titi arrived at the restaurant, Simi was already seated, her long legs crossed elegantly under the table. She wore a chic, off-the-shoulder dress that accentuated her slender frame. Her hair was styled in loose waves, and her makeup was flawless, highlighting her sharp cheekbones and full lips. Simi looked every bit the sophisticated woman she had grown into, but Titi knew that beneath the polished exterior lay a heart of gold. "Titi!" Simi exclaimed as she stood up to greet her friend. They embraced warmly, a familiarity and affection that only years of friendship could create. As they settled into their seats, they quickly fell into their usual rhythm of conversation, reminiscing about old times and catching up on the latest happenings in their lives. "So, tell me all about Jide," Simi said, a playful smile on her lips. "You two seem so perfect together. I'm dying to know what it's like dating Lagos's most eligible bachelor." Titi laughed, feeling a flutter of pride at Simi's words. "Jide is amazing. He's everything I could have hoped for and more. We've been planning our future together, and it just feels right, you know?" Simi listened intently, her eyes never leaving Titi's face. There was a flicker of something in her gaze, something that Titi couldn't quite place. It was admiration, but also something more, something deeper. A longing, perhaps, or a hint of envy. The evening progressed, and as the wine flowed, Simi steered the conversation towards more personal topics. She shared stories about her recent travels and her work at an art gallery, but her questions kept circling back to Jide. "I'd love to meet him properly," Simi said at one point. "Maybe we could all have dinner together sometime?" Titi nodded enthusiastically, oblivious to the undercurrents of Simi's interest. "Of course. Jide would love that. He's always up for meeting my friends." As the evening drew to a close, Titi felt a deep sense of contentment. She cherished her friendship with Simi and was excited at the thought of her closest friend getting to know the love of her life. They parted ways with promises to see each other soon, and Titi walked home with a light heart. Over the next few weeks, Simi began to make herself more present in Titi's life. She started visiting her at work, bringing coffee and chatting about her day. Her interest in Jide seemed to grow with each passing conversation, and she began to ask more pointed questions about him, his likes and dislikes, his work, and his plans for the future. One Saturday afternoon, Titi invited Simi to join her and Jide for a day at the Lekki market. The bustling market was one of Titi and Jide's favorite places to visit. They loved the vibrant atmosphere, the cacophony of voices, and the array of colorful goods on display. It was a place where they could lose themselves in the crowd, exploring stalls filled with handmade crafts, traditional fabrics, and tantalizing street food. As they wandered through the market, Simi stuck close to Jide, engaging him in conversation and laughing at his jokes. Titi watched them from a few steps behind, a small smile on her lips. She was happy to see her friend getting along so well with Jide, but a tiny seed of discomfort planted itself in her mind. Simi's attention seemed unusually focused, her laughter a little too eager. Later, as they sat down to enjoy a plate of jollof rice and grilled fish, Titi couldn't help but notice the way Simi's gaze lingered on Jide. It was subtle, but there was an intensity in her eyes that made Titi's stomach churn uneasily. She pushed the feeling aside, chalking it up to her imagination. But the days that followed only heightened her discomfort. Simi began to show up unannounced at their apartment, often with small gifts for Jide. An artisanal candle she found at a market, a rare book she thought he'd like, or a homemade batch of cookies. Jide was polite, always thanking Simi for her thoughtfulness. But Titi couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. One evening, Simi invited Jide to an art gallery opening without mentioning it to Titi. "I thought it would be a nice surprise," Simi explained when Titi found out. "I didn't want to bother you since I know you had a late meeting." Titi tried to brush it off, but the pit in her stomach grew. She couldn't deny the strange tension that had begun to build between her, Jide, and Simi. It was like a storm cloud forming on the horizon, dark and ominous, threatening to overshadow the sunshine of her once-perfect relationship. And as Titi lay in bed that night, listening to the rhythmic sounds of the city outside, she wondered if her friendship with Simi and her relationship with Jide would ever be the same again. The weeks following Simi's invitation to the art gallery were marked by an unsettling shift in the dynamic between Titi, Jide, and Simi. Titi couldn't help but notice the increasing frequency of Simi's visits and her growing presence in their lives. Jide, for his part, seemed unfazed by Simi's attentiveness, often shrugging off Titi's concerns with a dismissive wave of his hand. "Titi, you're overthinking this," Jide would say whenever she mentioned feeling uncomfortable with Simi's behavior. "She's your friend, and she's just trying to be nice. There's nothing more to it." But Titi couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it than Jide realized. Simi's seemingly innocent gestures had begun to take on a more personal tone. She would text Jide late at night, sharing thoughts that seemed far too intimate for a friend. She started showing up at Jide's office with coffee, often bringing him lunch unannounced. And whenever they were all together, Simi's focus was always on Jide, her laughter a bit too bright, her smiles lingering a bit too long. One afternoon, as Titi was cleaning up the living room, she found a book on the coffee table with a note tucked inside. It was a book about contemporary African art, a subject Jide had recently developed an interest in. The note was written in Simi's elegant handwriting. "Jide, I thought you'd enjoy this book. It's one of my favorites. Maybe we can discuss it over coffee sometime. Best, Simi." Titi stared at the note, a mix of emotions swirling inside her. The gesture seemed innocent on the surface, but there was something about the tone of the note that made her heart ache. It felt personal, intimate, like a secret shared between two people who were more than just friends. Her mind raced with questions. Why would Simi give Jide such a thoughtful gift? Why would she suggest discussing it over coffee without including her? Was she reading too much into this? Titi's stomach tightened with a sense of dread that she couldn't ignore. That evening, she decided to confront Jide. As they sat down for dinner, Titi placed the book on the table between them. Jide looked up, his expression puzzled. "What's this?" he asked. "It's a gift from Simi," Titi replied, her voice carefully measured. "She left a note inside asking if you'd like to discuss it over coffee." Jide picked up the book, flipping through the pages absently. "Oh, that's nice of her," he said, setting the book aside. "Simi knows I've been interested in African art lately. It's just a friendly gesture." Titi took a deep breath, trying to keep her voice steady. "Jide, don't you think it's a bit much? I mean, she's been showing up at your office, texting you all the time, and now this? It feels like she's trying to get closer to you." Jide sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "Titi, you're making a big deal out of nothing. Simi's been your friend for years. She's just trying to be nice. You're reading too much into it." "But what if I'm not?" Titi pressed, her frustration bubbling to the surface. "What if there's more to her intentions than you realize?" Jide frowned, his expression turning serious. "Are you saying you don't trust me, Titi?" "No, it's not that," Titi said quickly, reaching out to touch his hand. "I trust you, Jide, but I don't trust her. I've known Simi for a long time, and something about her behavior is off. I just need you to be aware of it." Jide nodded slowly, his gaze softening. "I hear you, Titi. I'll keep an eye on things, okay? But I really think you're worrying for no reason." Titi forced a smile, nodding in agreement, though her heart was far from settled. As they finished their dinner in strained silence, she couldn't help but wonder if Jide truly understood her concerns, or if he was too blinded by Simi's charm to see the truth. The following days brought no relief to Titi's anxiety. Simi continued her relentless pursuit of Jide's attention, and despite his reassurances, Titi couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. She noticed how Jide's phone would light up with messages from Simi late at night, and how he seemed to be spending more time at the office, often citing work as the reason for his late nights. One evening, Jide came home later than usual. His tie was loosened, and he looked exhausted. Titi was sitting on the couch, her legs curled under her, a book in her lap. She glanced up as he walked in, her heart sinking at the sight of him. "Long day?" she asked, trying to keep her voice light. "Yeah, you could say that," Jide replied, dropping his bag by the door. He walked over to the kitchen, grabbing a glass of water. "Simi and I got caught up in a discussion about one of the projects I'm working on. She had some great ideas." Titi's heart clenched at the mention of Simi's name. She swallowed hard, trying to push down the jealousy that threatened to overwhelm her. "Oh, really? What kind of ideas?" Jide leaned against the counter, taking a sip of water. "Just some insights on how to approach a few things. She's really smart, you know? I never realized how knowledgeable she is about finance and business." Titi nodded, forcing a smile. "That's great, Jide. I'm glad you have someone to bounce ideas off of." But inside, Titi felt as if the walls were closing in on her. The seeds of deception had been planted, and she could feel them taking root in the soil of their relationship. Each day, she watched as those seeds sprouted, growing stronger and more invasive, threatening to choke the life out of the love she and Jide had built together. And as she lay in bed that night, staring up at the ceiling, Titi couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change, whether she was ready for it or not. As the days went by, Titi felt a growing chasm between her and Jide. He became increasingly distant, his once warm and attentive demeanor replaced by a cold indifference that she couldn't ignore. Jide's late nights became more frequent, and his explanations less convincing. Titi found herself replaying their conversations over and over, searching for clues in his words and actions, trying to decipher what had gone wrong. One evening, Titi decided to confront Jide about his behavior. She needed to know if her suspicions about Simi were unfounded, or if there was more to Jide's late nights than he was letting on. As Jide walked through the door, looking worn and distracted, Titi took a deep breath and steadied herself for the conversation. "Jide, we need to talk," she said, her voice trembling despite her efforts to sound calm. Jide glanced at her, his brow furrowing in confusion. "About what?" he asked, shrugging off his jacket and hanging it on the back of a chair. "About us," Titi replied, her heart pounding in her chest. "About why you've been so distant lately. Why you're always working late. Why you seem different." Jide sighed, rubbing his temples with his fingers. "Titi, I've told you before, work has been crazy. I'm under a lot of pressure right now, and I don't need you questioning me every time I come home late." "It's not just about you coming home late," Titi shot back, her frustration boiling over. "It's about you spending so much time with Simi. It's about the way you talk about her, the way she seems to know everything about our lives. It's about feeling like I'm losing you." Jide's eyes flashed with irritation. "Simi is just a friend, Titi. You're being paranoid. I can't believe you don't trust me." "It's not that I don't trust you," Titi said, tears welling up in her eyes. "It's that I don't trust her. I've known Simi for a long time, and I can tell when something isn't right. She's overstepping, Jide, and you're letting her." Jide threw his hands up in exasperation. "What do you want me to do, Titi? Cut her out of my life just because you're insecure?" Titi felt as though she had been slapped. She stared at Jide, her eyes wide with hurt. "Insecure?" she repeated, her voice barely a whisper. "Is that what you think this is about?" Jide ran a hand through his hair, clearly frustrated. "I don't know what to think anymore, Titi. I'm tired, I'm stressed, and I just want some peace. Can we please not do this right now?" Titi turned away, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. She felt as though her heart was breaking all over again, the pain sharp and unforgiving. "Fine," she said, her voice choked with tears. "If that's what you want." Jide watched her for a moment, his expression softening slightly. He took a step towards her, reaching out as if to comfort her, but Titi pulled away. "Don't," she whispered, her voice cold. "Just don't." Jide hesitated, then sighed heavily and walked away, leaving Titi standing alone in the middle of the room, feeling more alone than she ever had in her life. In the following days, the tension between them only grew. Titi tried to reach out to Jide, but he remained distant and aloof. She found herself waking up in the middle of the night, her mind racing with thoughts of Simi and Jide, wondering if there was more going on than she knew. She felt like a stranger in her own home. Her once loving relationship, reduced to a series of awkward silences and forced smiles. One afternoon, as Titi was organizing Jide's belongings in their shared closet, she stumbled upon something that made her blood run cold. It was a series of personal notes from Simi, hidden away in the back of Jide's drawer. The notes were filled with emotional confessions and promises, written in Simi's delicate handwriting. "Jide, I can't stop thinking about you. I know this is wrong, but I can't help how I feel. You're the only one who understands me, who makes me feel alive. I don't know what to do anymore. Please tell me you feel the same way." Titi's hands trembled as she read the words, her mind reeling with shock and betrayal. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. How could Jide keep these notes from her? How could he let Simi get so close? As she continued to read, Titi's heart shattered into a million pieces. The words on the page were like daggers, each one cutting deeper than the last. She could feel her world crumbling around her. Everything she thought she knew about Jide and their relationship unraveling before her eyes. With tears streaming down her face, Titi clutched the notes to her chest, her body shaking with sobs. She felt betrayed, not only by Jide, but by Simi as well. Her closest friend, the person she had trusted the most, had gone behind her back and tried to steal the man she loved. Titi knew she couldn't ignore this any longer. She had to confront Jide to demand answers. She needed to know the truth, no matter how much it hurt. That evening, when Jide returned home, Titi was waiting for him in the living room, the notes clutched tightly in her hand. As soon as he walked through the door, she held them up, her voice trembling with anger and pain. "Care to explain these?" she asked, her eyes blazing with fury. Jide's face paled as he saw the notes in her hand. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. He looked like a deer caught in headlights, his expression a mix of guilt and fear. "Titi, I can explain." "Explain," Titi interrupted, her voice rising. "How could you keep this from me, Jide? How could you let her get so close?" Jide took a step towards her, his hands raised in a placating gesture. "Titi, please, it's not what you think. I never meant for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you." "But you did," Titi said, her voice breaking. "You hurt me more than you could ever know. I trusted you, Jide. I trusted you with my heart, and you shattered it." Jide's eyes filled with tears as he reached out to her. "Titi, I'm so sorry. I never wanted this. I never wanted to hurt you. Please believe me." Titi shook her head, stepping back from him. "I don't know if I can believe you anymore, Jide. I don't know if I can ever trust you again." As Titi turned and walked away, leaving Jide standing alone in the middle of the room, she felt a sense of finality settle over her. She knew that their relationship would never be the same again, that the cracks that had begun to show were now gaping wounds that could never be healed. And as she cried herself to sleep that night, Titi couldn't help but wonder if she would ever be able to move on from the pain and betrayal that had shattered her heart into a million pieces. The morning after discovering the notes, Titi felt as if she were moving through a fog. Her heart was heavy, and her mind was a tangled mess of anger, sadness, and confusion. Every fiber of her being was telling her to confront Simi, to demand answers, to force her friend to explain why she had betrayed her. Titi needed to hear Simi's side of the story, even if it meant reopening her wounds. With determination, Titi picked up her phone and dialed Simi's number. The phone rang twice before Simi's familiar voice answered, a hint of surprise evident in her tone. "Titi, is everything okay?" Titi took a deep breath, her hand trembling as she clutched the phone. "Simi, we need to talk. Can you meet me at the park near my place in an hour?" There was a brief pause on the other end of the line before Simi replied, her voice cautious. "Okay, I'll be there." As Titi hung up the phone, she felt a surge of adrenaline. She knew that confronting Simi wouldn't be easy, but she needed to understand why her friend had crossed such a line. Why had she betrayed her trust in such a cruel and callous way? An hour later, Titi found herself sitting on a bench in the park, her fingers fidgeting with the strap of her handbag. The sun was shining brightly, casting long shadows across the ground, but Titi felt no warmth. Her heart was cold, her emotions numb as she waited for Simi to arrive. When Simi finally appeared, her expression was one of apprehension. She approached Titi cautiously, her steps tentative, as if she knew that the conversation they were about to have would change everything. Titi, Simi began, her voice barely above a whisper. What's going on? You sounded upset on the phone. Titi looked up at her, her eyes filled with a mixture of hurt and betrayal. I found the notes, Simi. The ones you wrote to Jide. Care to explain what's going on? Simi's face went pale, her eyes widening in shock. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. For a moment, the two women simply stared at each other, the tension between them palpable. Simi, Titi continued, her voice breaking, how could you do this to me? I thought we were friends. I trusted you. I confided in you. And all this time, you were going behind my back with Jide. Simi's eyes filled with tears, and she looked away, unable to meet Titi's gaze. Titi, I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. Titi shook her head, her hands clenching into fists. Then why did you do it, Simi? Why did you write those notes? Why did you try to take Jide away from me? Simi wiped a tear from her cheek, her voice trembling as she spoke. I don't know, Titi. I guess I've always had feelings for Jide, ever since we were kids. And when I saw how happy you two were together, I got jealous. I wanted what you had. I wanted Jide to look at me the way he looks at you. Titi's heart ached as she listened to Simi's confession. She could feel the anger rising in her chest, a burning fire that threatened to consume her. So, you thought you could just steal him from me? That you could betray me and still call yourself my friend? Simi shook her head, her tears flowing freely now. No, Titi. I didn't mean for it to happen like this. I was just so lost, and Jide was there. He listened to me, he understood me. I thought maybe he felt the same way. Titi felt her anger bubble over, and she stood up, her voice shaking with rage. Well, he doesn't, Simi. He loves me, and you've done nothing but try to tear us apart. You're not my friend. You're a liar and a backstabber. Simi flinched at Titi's words, her face crumpling in despair. Titi, please. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything to make it up to you. Just please don't hate me. Titi took a step back, her chest heaving with emotion. It's too late, Simi. You've already done enough damage. I don't think I can ever forgive you for this. Simi reached out a hand, her voice pleading. Titi, please. But Titi turned away, unable to bear the sight of her friend's tears. She felt a deep, hollow ache in her chest, the pain of betrayal cutting deeper than she had ever thought possible. Without another word, she walked away, leaving Simi standing alone in the park, her sobs echoing in the stillness of the morning. As Titi made her way back to her apartment, her mind raced with thoughts of Jide and Simi, of all the lies and deceit that had poisoned her life. She knew that she couldn't ignore what had happened, that she couldn't pretend that everything was okay. She needed to confront Jide, to demand the truth once and for all. That evening, Titi called Jide and asked him to meet her at a cafe they used to frequent. It was a small, intimate place, tucked away on a quiet street, a place filled with memories of happier times. As Titi waited for Jide to arrive, she couldn't help but feel a pang of nostalgia. She remembered all the times they had sat at this very table, laughing and talking, planning their future together. But those memories felt like a lifetime ago. Now they were tainted by the knowledge of Jide's betrayal, of Simi's lies. Titi knew that the conversation they were about to have would change everything. When Jide finally walked through the door, Titi's heart ached at the sight of him. He looked tired and worn, his eyes filled with a sadness that mirrored her own. As he sat down across from her, Titi took a deep breath and steeled herself for what was to come. Jide, I found the notes, she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. The ones from Simi. I know everything. Jide's face paled, his eyes widening in shock. He opened his mouth to speak, but Titi held up a hand, stopping him. Don't, she said, her voice cold. Just tell me the truth, Jide. Do you have feelings for her? Jide hesitated, his eyes filled with guilt. Titi, I don't know. I'm so confused right now. I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted any of this to happen. Titi felt her heart shatter all over again, the pain of his words cutting deep. But you did, Jide. You hurt me more than I ever thought possible. And I don't know if I can ever forgive you for that." Jide's eyes filled with tears, and he reached out to her, his voice pleading. "Titi, please. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything to make this right. Just please don't leave me." Titi looked at him, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and resolve. "I don't know if I can stay, Jide. Not after everything that's happened. Not after everything you've done." As Titi stood up to leave, she felt a sense of finality settle over her. She knew that this was the end of their relationship, that the love they once shared was now broken beyond repair. And as she walked out of the cafe, leaving Jide behind, she couldn't help but wonder if she would ever be able to heal from the pain and betrayal that had shattered her heart into a million pieces. The days that followed the confrontation were a blur for Titi. She moved through her life like a ghost, the weight of her heartbreak pressing down on her shoulders like an unbearable burden. She couldn't shake the image of Simi's tear-streaked face or Jide's look of guilt and regret. Every thought of them sent a sharp pain through her heart, reminding her of the betrayal that had torn her world apart. Titi withdrew from her friends and family, seeking solace in solitude. She avoided the places she and Jide used to frequent, unable to face the memories of their happier times. Even her apartment, once a sanctuary filled with love and laughter, felt like a prison, each corner echoing with reminders of what she had lost. Work became her refuge. She threw herself into her projects at the interior design firm, working long hours to keep her mind occupied. Her colleagues noticed the change in her demeanor. The once vibrant, creative force seemed dimmed, her smiles less frequent, her laughter almost non-existent. But Titi was determined to keep going, to push through the pain and find a way to heal. Despite her efforts to move forward, Titi couldn't escape the whispers. Word of her breakup with Jide and the betrayal by Simi had spread quickly through their social circles. Everywhere she went, she felt the weight of prying eyes and hushed conversations. The pity and curiosity of others only deepened her sense of humiliation, making her feel even more isolated. One afternoon, as Titi was leaving the office, she ran into an old acquaintance from university. The woman greeted her with a forced smile, her eyes darting nervously. "Titi, I heard about what happened with Jide and Simi," she said, her voice filled with false sympathy. "I'm so sorry. It must be so hard for you." Titi forced a polite smile, nodding stiffly. "Thank you," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm managing." The woman continued to prattle on, her words a mix of condolences and gossip thinly veiled as concern. Titi could feel her patience wearing thin, her heart aching with every mention of Jide's name. Finally, she excused herself and hurried away, her hands shaking with a mix of anger and frustration. As she walked down the busy street, Titi felt a surge of emotions welling up inside her. She was tired of the whispers, the pitying looks, the constant reminders of her heartbreak. She wanted to scream, to cry, to run away from it all. But instead, she kept walking, her head held high, determined not to let anyone see her pain. When Titi finally reached her apartment, she collapsed onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she allowed herself to feel the full weight of her grief. She sobbed until her throat was raw, her body shaking with the force of her emotions. She cried for the love she had lost, for the friend who had betrayed her, for the life she thought she would have but was now gone. After what felt like hours, Titi's tears finally began to subside. She wiped her eyes, taking a deep, shaky breath. She knew she couldn't go on like this. She couldn't keep living in the shadow of her heartbreak, allowing it to consume her. She needed to find a way to move forward, to rebuild her life and heal from the pain. The next morning, Titi woke up with a renewed sense of determination. She decided to take some time off work, recognizing that she needed a break from the constant pressure and the reminders of her past. She called her boss, explaining that she needed some personal time to take care of herself. Her boss, a kind and understanding woman, agreed without hesitation, encouraging Titi to take as much time as she needed. With her time off, Titi began to focus on herself. She started each day with a long walk through the city, allowing the fresh air and bustling energy of Lagos to clear her mind. She spent hours exploring the markets and visiting art galleries, immersing herself in the vibrant culture of her city. Slowly but surely, She began to feel a spark of joy returning to her heart. Titi also reconnected with her family, reaching out to her parents and siblings for support. She realized how much she had missed their love and encouragement, their constant presence in her life. They welcomed her with open arms, offering her a safe space to heal and find comfort. They spent time together cooking meals, sharing stories, and laughing, reminding Titi of the importance of family and the strength that comes from being surrounded by those who truly care. One evening, as Titi sat on the porch of her parents' house, watching the sun set over the city, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. For the first time in weeks, she felt a glimmer of hope, a small spark of light in the darkness. She knew that her journey to healing was far from over, but she was ready to take the first steps. She was ready to face the pain, to confront her feelings, and to find a way to move forward. As the days passed, Titi began to focus on her personal growth. She enrolled in a pottery class, finding solace in the creative process of shaping clay with her hands. She joined a book club, meeting new people and discovering a love for reading that she hadn't known she had. She even started volunteering at a local animal shelter, finding comfort in the company of the animals and the joy of giving back to her community. With each new experience, Titi felt herself growing stronger. She realized that her heartbreak, though painful, had given her the opportunity to rediscover herself, to explore new passions and forge new connections. She was no longer the same woman who had been blindsided by betrayal. She was someone stronger, someone braver, someone who had found the courage to face her pain and rebuild her life. Titi knew that the road to healing would be long and difficult, but she was determined to walk it. She was ready to embrace the journey, to learn from her past, and to find her way to true happiness. And as she took those first steps forward, she felt a sense of hope that she hadn't felt in a long time. A hope that maybe, just maybe, she would be okay. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months. With each passing day, Titi's wounds began to heal, slowly but surely. The pain of Jide and Simi's betrayal was still there, a dull ache that occasionally flared into sharp, searing grief. But Titi had learned how to manage it. She had found ways to cope, to nurture her spirit, and to focus on the future instead of dwelling on the past. Her days were now filled with activities that brought her joy and fulfillment. Titi's pottery class had become a cherished sanctuary, a place where she could lose herself in the tactile pleasure of molding clay. She found a surprising peace in the repetitive motions, the feel of the cool, wet earth spinning under her hands. The simple act of creation brought her a sense of control and accomplishment she hadn't felt in a long time. Her book club meetings also became a highlight of her week. Surrounded by a group of diverse, intelligent women, Titi found herself engaging in lively discussions about literature, philosophy, and life. The club was more than just a place to talk about books. It was a space where she could connect with others, share her thoughts and feelings, and build new friendships. The laughter and camaraderie she found there were a balm to her wounded heart. But it was the animal shelter where Titi found the most unexpected solace. The shelter was a noisy, chaotic place, filled with the sounds of barking dogs and the soft mewls of kittens. Yet, amid the commotion, Titi discovered a profound sense of peace. Caring for the animals, tending to their needs, and seeing the joy in their eyes when they received attention filled her with a deep sense of purpose. Their unconditional love and trust reminded her that there was still goodness in the world, still love worth giving and receiving. One particularly busy Saturday at the shelter, Titi was feeding a group of playful puppies when she noticed a man standing at the entrance. He was tall and well-built, with a kind smile and a gentle demeanor. He seemed out of place amidst the hustle and bustle, standing there with a quiet, contemplative expression on his face. As Titi approached him, she saw that he was watching the animals with a mixture of amusement and tenderness. "Hi there," she said, wiping her hands on her apron. "Can I help you with something?" The man turned to her, his smile widening. "I'm just here to volunteer," he replied. "I've always loved animals and thought I'd come by to see if there's anything I can do." Titi's heart warmed at his words. "We could always use an extra pair of hands," she said, returning his smile. "I'm Titi, by the way." "I'm Daniel," he replied, extending his hand. As they shook hands, Titi felt a surprising spark of connection. There was something about Daniel's easygoing nature and genuine kindness that put her at ease. They spent the rest of the afternoon working together, cleaning kennels, feeding the animals, and playing with the dogs. Titi found herself laughing more than she had in months, Daniel's infectious humor and lighthearted spirit lifting her mood. He was attentive and compassionate, always quick to lend a hand or offer a kind word. His presence was comforting, like a warm blanket on a cold day. As the day drew to a close, Daniel and Titi sat outside the shelter, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The sky was painted with hues of orange and pink, casting a warm glow over the city. Titi felt a sense of contentment she hadn't experienced in a long time. For the first time since her heartbreak, she felt truly at peace. "Thank you for today," she said, glancing over at Daniel. "I haven't had this much fun in a while." Daniel smiled, his eyes softening. "I should be thanking you. This place is incredible, and it's clear you're making a real difference here. I'm glad I came by." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the gentle sounds of the evening settling around them. Titi felt a flutter of something in her chest, something she hadn't felt since Jide. It was a tentative feeling, fragile and new, like the first bloom of a flower after a long winter. She wasn't sure what it meant or where it would lead, but she found herself wanting to explore it, to see where it might take her. Over the next few weeks, Daniel continued to volunteer at the shelter, and he and Titi grew closer. They shared stories about their lives, their passions, and their dreams. Daniel was open and honest, never shying away from talking about his own experiences with loss and heartbreak. He listened to Titi's story without judgment, offering support and understanding. His kindness and empathy touched her deeply, making her feel seen and valued in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. One evening, after a particularly long day at the shelter, Daniel invited Titi out for coffee. They sat in a cozy cafe, sipping their drinks and talking about everything and nothing. As the conversation flowed, Titi felt the walls around her heart begin to soften. She found herself opening up to Daniel in ways she hadn't with anyone else since Jide. "Do you ever think about the future?" Daniel asked suddenly, his gaze fixed on her. Titi hesitated, then nodded. "I do. I think about it a lot, actually. But it's hard, you know? After everything that's happened, it's hard to imagine what the future could look like." Daniel reached across the table, gently squeezing her hand. "I understand, but I also think that sometimes the future can surprise us in ways we never expected. It's like those animals at the shelter. They come in hurt and scared, but with a little love and care, they find a new life, a new beginning. I think people are the same." Titi felt tears prick at her eyes, moved by his words. "I'd like to believe that," she said softly. "I'd like to believe that there's still hope for something good, something real." "There is," Daniel said, his voice firm and reassuring. "There's always hope, Titi. And I think you have so much love to give, so much light to share. Don't let one heartbreak take that away from you." As Titi looked into Daniel's eyes, she felt a sense of warmth spread through her. Maybe he was right. Maybe there was still hope for her, still a chance for a new beginning. She wasn't sure where this journey would take her, but for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to find out. And as she sat there, holding Daniel's hand, she realized that maybe, just maybe, her journey of healing had brought her to something beautiful after all. Titi and Daniel's friendship blossomed in ways that neither of them could have predicted. What started as a casual connection at the animal shelter quickly evolved into something deeper and more meaningful. They spent countless hours together, whether volunteering, grabbing coffee, or simply walking through the bustling streets of Lagos, sharing stories and dreams. With each passing day, Titi felt herself growing more comfortable around Daniel, her heart opening up like a flower after a long, cold winter. One sunny afternoon, Daniel surprised Titi with an invitation to a charity event. "It's a fundraiser for one of the animal shelters we both support," he explained with a hopeful smile. "I thought it might be fun, and maybe we could spend some more time together outside of our usual routine." Titi hesitated for a moment. Social events had become a challenge for her since her breakup with Jide. The prospect of seeing familiar faces and having to explain her circumstances again felt daunting. but something in Daniel's warm eyes gave her courage. "I'd love to go," she finally agreed, her voice steady. The evening of the event arrived, and Titi found herself nervously adjusting her dress in front of her mirror. She had chosen a simple yet elegant outfit, a deep blue dress that hugged her figure in all the right places. She hadn't felt this nervous about an outing in a long time. Taking a deep breath, she reminded herself that this was a new chapter, a fresh start. When she arrived at the venue, a beautiful hall adorned with lights and flowers, she spotted Daniel immediately. He was waiting for her near the entrance, looking dapper in a charcoal gray suit. His face lit up when he saw her, and he quickly made his way over. "You look stunning, Titi," he said, his eyes sparkling with genuine admiration. Titi felt her cheeks flush. "Thank you, Daniel. You clean up pretty well yourself." They laughed together, a comfortable, easy sound that melted away any lingering nerves. As they walked into the hall, Titi noticed the elegant decorations, the soft hum of conversation, and the occasional clink of glasses. It was a beautiful event, and for the first time in a long time, she felt at ease in a social setting. Throughout the evening, Daniel stayed by Titi's side, introducing her to friends and colleagues, sharing stories and laughter. He was attentive, always making sure she was comfortable and engaged. Titi couldn't help but feel a growing sense of affection for him. His kindness, his sense of humor, and his genuine nature made her heart feel lighter, her spirit more buoyant. At one point, as they stood by a table of appetizers, Daniel leaned in closer. "I'm really glad you came tonight, Titi," he said softly. "I've had such a great time with you, and I hope you're enjoying yourself too." Titi smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I am, Daniel. More than I thought I would. Thank you for inviting me. It's been nice. Really nice." They continued to talk, sharing stories and jokes as the evening wore on. As they moved to a quieter corner of the room, Daniel turned to her with a more serious expression. "Titi, I know we've both been through a lot, and I know you're still healing, but I just want you to know that I really value our friendship. You mean a lot to me, and I care about you." Titi's heart skipped a beat. She had sensed this moment coming, but had been unsure how to approach it. Her feelings for Daniel had grown over the past few weeks, but she was still scared. Scared of being hurt again, scared of opening up her heart. But as she looked into Daniel's eyes, she saw only sincerity and kindness. "I care about you too, Daniel," she replied softly. "You've been such a great friend, and I've come to really appreciate your presence in my life. I'm just afraid, you know? Afraid of getting hurt again." Daniel nodded, his expression understanding. "I get it, Titi. I really do. And I don't want to rush you or make you feel pressured. I just wanted to be honest with you about how I feel. I'm here for you, no matter what." Titi felt a lump form in her throat. The vulnerability in Daniel's words touched her deeply, and she realized how much she valued his honesty. "Thank you, Daniel. That means a lot to me. And I want to be honest, too, I think. I'd like to see where this could go. I'm scared, but I don't want to let fear hold me back anymore." A warm smile spread across Daniel's face, and he gently took her hand in his. "Then let's take it one step at a time," he said softly. Together, that night, as they left the event and walked side by side under the twinkling stars, Titi felt a new sense of hope blooming within her. She wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt excited about the possibilities. She knew that healing wasn't a linear process, and that there would still be challenges ahead. But with Daniel by her side, she felt ready to embrace whatever came next. As they reached her door, Daniel turned to her with a shy smile. "I had a great time tonight, Titi. Thank you for coming with me." "I did too, Daniel," Titi replied, her heart full. "Thank you for everything." With a gentle squeeze of her hand, Daniel bid her good night, and Titi watched as he walked away, a soft smile playing on her lips. As she closed the door behind her, she realized that she had taken a big step forward that night. It wasn't just about opening up to Daniel. It was about opening up to life again, to love, and to all the beautiful possibilities that lay ahead. Titi knew that she still had a lot of healing to do, but for the first time, she felt like she was truly on the path to a new beginning. And as she drifted off to sleep, she felt a sense of peace and contentment that she hadn't felt in a long time. Her journey was far from over, but she was ready to face whatever came next with courage, hope, and an open heart. Titi and Daniel's relationship grew steadily, their bond deepening with each passing day. Their shared experiences, their laughter, and their heartfelt conversations created a strong foundation for their future together. It was clear to both of them that they had found something special in each other, a rare and precious connection that made them both feel complete. As their relationship flourished, Daniel decided it was time to take the next step. He had been planning a surprise for Titi, one that he hoped would mark the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. With careful consideration and a heart full of love, he arranged for a memorable proposal. The setting was a picturesque garden just outside Lagos, a serene and enchanting location that offered a perfect blend of natural beauty and tranquility. The garden was adorned with twinkling fairy lights, and lanterns lined the pathways, casting a soft, romantic glow. The air was filled with the delicate fragrance of blooming flowers, creating an atmosphere of magic and wonder. On the evening of the proposal, Titi was taken by surprise when Daniel arrived at her apartment with a bouquet of her favorite flowers, a mix of vibrant tulips and delicate roses. He looked dashing in a navy blue suit, his eyes brimming with excitement and tenderness. "Are you ready for a little adventure?" Daniel asked, his voice warm and inviting. Titi smiled, her curiosity piqued. "I'm ready. Where are we going?" "It's a surprise," Daniel replied, taking her hand and leading her to a sleek black car parked outside. As they drove through the city and then out into the countryside, Titi could feel her anticipation growing. She had no idea what to expect, but the thrill of the unknown was exhilarating. When they finally arrived at the garden, Daniel led her through the beautifully illuminated pathways. Titi's eyes widened in awe as she took in the enchanting scene. The garden was like something out of a fairy tale, with its lush greenery and sparkling lights creating a dreamlike ambience. At the center of the garden was a small gazebo, adorned with flowers and soft fabric drapes. Daniel guided Titi to the gazebo and then, with a playful grin, handed her a small box. "Open it," he urged. With trembling hands, Titi unwrapped the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring. The gem sparkled brilliantly in the soft light, capturing Titi's breath in her throat. She looked up at Daniel, her eyes wide with surprise and emotion. "Daniel, it's beautiful," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Daniel took her hands in his gaze steady and filled with love. "Titi, from the moment I met you, I knew there was something extraordinary about you. You've brought so much joy, laughter, and love into my life. I want to spend the rest of my life with you, building a future together, sharing our dreams and facing life's challenges as a team." He dropped to one knee, holding the ring up with a hopeful expression. "Will you marry me, Titi?" Titi's heart raced as she looked down at Daniel, her eyes filling with tears of happiness. The weight of the past few months seemed to lift from her shoulders, replaced by a profound sense of peace and joy. This moment was everything she had hoped for, a culmination of her journey from heartbreak to healing. "Yes, Daniel," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "Yes, I'll marry you." Daniel slid the ring onto her finger, his eyes never leaving hers. The ring fit perfectly, a symbol of their love and commitment. As he stood up, he pulled Titi into a tender embrace, holding her close as they both reveled in the sheer joy of the moment. The garden was filled with the sounds of their laughter and the soft, melodious strains of a violinist who had been hired for the evening. The musician played a romantic tune that seemed to capture the essence of their love, adding to the magic of the proposal. Afterward, Daniel and Titi enjoyed a private dinner in the garden, their table set with candles and a delicious array of dishes. They shared their dreams for the future, their hopes and aspirations, and their excitement about their upcoming wedding. As the evening drew to a close, Daniel and Titi walked hand in hand through the garden, their hearts full of love and anticipation. The proposal had been everything Titi had dreamed of and more, a perfect reflection of the deep connection they shared. The engagement was celebrated with joy and enthusiasm. Titi's friends and family were thrilled for her, their support and love evident in their heartfelt congratulations. The wedding planning began in earnest, with Titi and Daniel working together, to create a day that would be a true reflection of their love story. The ceremony was set to take place in a grand venue, a beautiful blend of modern elegance and traditional charm. Titi had always dreamed of a wedding that was both sophisticated and deeply personal, a celebration that honored her heritage while embracing her new life with Daniel. As the wedding day approached, Titi found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her to this moment. She thought about the heartbreak she had endured, the strength she had found within herself, and the love that had blossomed with Daniel. It was a journey that had been challenging, but it had also been incredibly rewarding. When the day finally arrived, Titi was filled with a sense of calm and excitement. She was surrounded by her closest friends and family, their support and love evident in their smiles and well wishes. The venue was transformed into a stunning celebration of love, with elegant decorations, fragrant flowers, and the soft glow of candlelight. Titi looked radiant in her wedding gown, a masterpiece of intricate beadwork and flowing fabric. Her hair was styled in an elegant updo, and she wore a delicate veil that added a touch of romance to her ensemble. As she walked down the aisle, she felt a profound sense of gratitude and joy, knowing that she was surrounded by the people who loved her and that she was about to marry the love of her life. Daniel, waiting at the altar, looked at Titi with awe and adoration. Their vows were exchanged with sincerity and emotion, and the ceremony was a beautiful blend of traditional rituals and personal touches. As they shared their vows, Titi felt a deep sense of connection and commitment, knowing that they were embarking on a new chapter together, filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities. The reception was a joyous celebration, with laughter, dancing, and heartfelt toasts. Titi and Daniel shared their first dance as a married couple, their love and happiness evident in every move. The evening was filled with warmth, love, and the promise of a bright future together. As the night came to a close, Titi and Daniel left the venue, ready to begin their new life together. The journey from heartbreak to healing had been long and challenging, but it had led them to a place of true love and happiness. And as they stepped into their future, hand in hand, they knew that their love story was only just beginning. Titi and Daniel's wedding had been a stunning celebration of their love and commitment. The day was a blend of elegance and personal touches, a testament to their journey and the bright future they were stepping into. As they embarked on their honeymoon, the couple was filled with excitement and anticipation, eager to start this new chapter of their lives together. The honeymoon destination was a picturesque island resort, known for its pristine beaches, crystal-clear waters, and luxurious accommodations. The moment they arrived, they were greeted with warm smiles and refreshing drinks, instantly enveloped in the serene and romantic atmosphere of the island. Their days were filled with exploration and relaxation. They spent mornings lounging on the beach, basking in the sun, and enjoying the soothing sound of the waves. The afternoons were dedicated to adventurous excursions, snorkeling in vibrant coral reefs, hiking through lush tropical forests, and discovering hidden waterfalls. Each new experience deepened their bond, allowing them to create lasting memories together. One evening, Daniel planned a special surprise for Titi. He had arranged for a private candlelit dinner on the beach. As the sun set, casting a warm golden glow over the horizon, Titi was led to a beautifully set table, adorned with candles and delicate flowers. The gentle sea breeze carried the soft strains of a live violinist, playing romantic melodies. Titi was touched by the effort Daniel had put into this special evening. As they sat down to enjoy a gourmet meal, Daniel took Titi's hand, his eyes reflecting the dim candlelight. "I've been thinking a lot about our future," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "I'm so grateful for everything we've shared so far, and I'm excited about what lies ahead. You've brought so much joy into my life, and I can't wait to continue building our future together." Titi's heart swelled with emotion. "I feel the same way, Daniel. This journey we've been on, everything we've experienced together, has made me so hopeful for our future. I'm excited to see what we'll accomplish and how we'll grow as a couple." As the night progressed, they shared their dreams and aspirations, discussing their hopes for the future. They talked about starting a family, their careers, and the adventures they wanted to embark on together. The conversation was filled with optimism and excitement, a reflection of the strong foundation they had built. The following days of their honeymoon were a beautiful blend of relaxation and adventure. They took leisurely strolls along the beach, enjoyed intimate conversations under the stars, and relished in the simple pleasure of each other's company. Every moment seemed to strengthen their connection and reaffirm their commitment to one another. As the honeymoon came to an end, Titi and Daniel returned to Lagos, ready to begin their married life. They had both been deeply touched by the experiences they had shared on the island, and their love had grown even stronger. Their time away had allowed them to reflect on their journey and appreciate the depth of their connection. Back in Lagos, life returned to its usual pace, but their relationship remained as vibrant and fulfilling as ever. They settled into their new routine, balancing their professional lives with their personal time. Titi continued to thrive in her career, taking on new challenges and projects that showcased her creativity and innovation. Daniel also made strides in his work, finding fulfillment in his role and contributing to meaningful causes. Their home became a sanctuary of love and warmth, a place where they could unwind and enjoy each other's company. They hosted gatherings with friends and family, celebrating milestones and creating new memories together. The joy and happiness that filled their lives were evident in everything they did. As the months passed, Titi and Daniel continued to support and uplift each other. They faced life's challenges with resilience and grace, knowing that they could rely on each other for strength and comfort. Their love story was a testament to the power of healing and the beauty of finding true connection. Their journey from heartbreak to happiness had been marked by growth, self-discovery, and unwavering love. Titi's path had not been easy, but her resilience and determination had led her to a place of true fulfillment. With Daniel by her side, she felt ready to embrace the future with hope and optimism. As they looked toward the future, Titi and Daniel knew that their love was a source of strength and inspiration. Their story was a reminder that even in the face of adversity, there was always the possibility of finding happiness and building a life filled with love and joy. Together, Titi and Daniel continued to write their own love story, one that was filled with adventure, passion, and a deep, abiding connection. Their journey was a celebration of the power of love and the beauty of finding one's true partner in life. And as they moved forward, hand in hand, they knew that their greatest adventures were still ahead.